What? Infertility treatment? We don't need that. All you need to do is take care of the house and family. What? That's unfair. I was taken aback by Lawrence's unexpected remark, feeling like I was just being treated as a housekeeper. Despite my anxiety, I carried on with my days. While cleaning Lawrence's room, I found something shocking. A birth video of a woman I didn't know. Who is this woman? As I was wondering what to do, a man named August appeared. I enlisted August's help to expose Lawrence's affair in front of our entire family. In the Keaton family, it's a tradition to gather at our parents' home on Christmas night. I made a suggestion to my in-laws. Lucas, could we host this year's Christmas gathering at our apartment? After explaining everything, my in-laws agreed. Thus began my revenge on Lawrence. I'm Maria, a 40-year-old housewife, married for 3 years. I married Lawrence at 37 and have been longing for a child. But even after 3 years, we still couldn't conceive. I met Lawrence, who is 3 years older than me, at a party, and we got married. The Keaton family, Lawrence's family, is a well-known, prestigious family in our area. It was somewhat surprising that Lawrence, the son of such a wealthy family, remained single until he was 40. However, we clicked, and I thought we were a good match, so I didn't hesitate to marry him. After our wedding, we started living in an apartment near his parents' house. Eventually, we planned to live with his parents, which seemed natural since I married their only son. Both of my in-laws cherish me as their daughter-in-law. Lucas could be a bit difficult, but my mother-in-law Diana was very kind. So I thought we would manage just fine. Following Lawrence's wishes, I quit my job to help out with family chores. I've always enjoyed helping others. I thought my dream of a happy married life was starting. But about a year into our marriage, I began to notice a change in Lawrence. He had been so kind when we first married. Recently, however, he seemed increasingly distant. When he came home from work, he wouldn't even say, "I'm home." He just handed me his shirt and said, "Wash this and iron it." We barely talked except when he had chores for me. I wondered, did I do something to upset him? Reflecting on my actions since our marriage, I couldn't find anything that would have angered Lawrence. Still concerned, I decided to talk to Diana about it. "Diana, recently I feel like Lawrence has become colder. He hardly talks to me unless it's about chores. Am I doing something wrong?" Diana smiled kindly and answered, "Lawrence is just like Lucas. After we got married, Lucas was the same way. Maybe Lawrence, like his father, finds it awkward to talk with his wife. So I shouldn't worry too much?" "Perhaps that's just the nature of marriage. Over time you'll come to understand each other better." Her words reassured me a little. Lucas and Diana have a very good relationship now, so I thought maybe Lawrence and I will get along better as time goes on. But I was still worried. Maybe if we had a child, Lawrence would change. I've always loved children and longed for my own. To that end, I checked my basal body temperature every morning and tracked the best days for conception. I also tried to lead a healthy lifestyle to improve my chances of getting pregnant. But 3 years into our marriage, there was still no sign of pregnancy. Maybe the problem was me. I decided to bring it up with Lawrence. "Lawrence, we've been married for 3 years and still no children. I was thinking we should get checked." "What do you mean, get checked?" Lawrence asked with an indifferent expression. But I gathered my courage and continued. "I mean, either you or I might have an issue. Maybe we should consider infertility treatment." I hesitantly brought up the topic of infertility treatment, but Lawrence just looked annoyed. Then he said something unbelievable. "What? Infertility treatment? We don't need that. Just do your chores and take care of the family." "What? That's harsh." I was shocked by Lawrence's unexpected response. I felt like he was treating me as nothing more than a housekeeper. Don't you want children? Even Lucas is expecting someone to continue the family name. I challenged him, but Lawrence seemed lost for words for a moment. "That'll work itself out." "What do you mean by work itself out?" I questioned his vague response, but he didn't reply. "The heir will work itself out." I couldn't stop thinking about what Lawrence had said, and the meaning behind those words would be revealed in an unexpected way later on. I spent each day burdened with anxiety. Day in and day out, cooking, laundry, cleaning. It was a never-ending cycle. I told myself it was natural since I was a daughter-in-law, but it felt increasingly empty. I was cleaning Lawrence's study again today. The room is lined with countless books. I have to carefully dust the spaces between them. Next to the bookshelf, there's a large CD rack. Due to the awkward gaps, I need to take everything out to clean it properly. I carefully removed each item, trying not to mix up their order. It seems the top shelf is filled with DVDs. While taking out about 20 at once, I lost my grip and dropped them all. Oh no! I need to put these back exactly as they were. All of the DVDs had fallen out of their cases, and I couldn't tell which belonged where. Lawrence is meticulous, so he labels both the DVDs and their cases. I started matching the labels on the DVDs to their cases. Among them, one caught my attention. I couldn't tell what it was about, but it read, November 30th, 2022, Clyde's birth. Clyde? Who's that? Seeing this reminded me of Lawrence's words. The air will work itself out. Suspecting a connection, I decided to play the DVD. I took it to the living room where the TV and player were. Pressing play, the screen showed a dark room with a bed that looked like a hospital examination table. A woman in her early 20s lay on the bed, smiling at the camera. She wore oversized pajamas, and her belly was visibly large. She was pregnant. The woman calmly smiled, then suddenly grimaced in pain. "It hurts! Lawrence, rub my back!" "Rosamond, just a little bit longer. You can do it." This must be labor. But more than that, I was startled by the voice of the man rubbing her back. Is that Lawrence's voice? The pregnant woman called him that too. She was in obvious pain. I've never experienced it, but it seemed like the baby was about to be born. So this was a labor room. Who is this woman? This woman in labor, continuously calling for Lawrence. Why was Lawrence there with her? After a while, several women in nurses' uniforms, presumably midwives, entered. They were guiding the pregnant woman in breathing techniques. The pregnant woman was then moved to the delivery table, and Lawrence followed her. It seemed the filming had paused for a while, and then, in the next moment, incredibly, the scene vividly displayed Lawrence attending the birth. Throughout her pain, the woman continued to call out Lawrence's name. "Rosamond, it's okay. I can see the head. Just a little bit more. You're doing great." Lawrence's excited voice echoed. Tears started rolling down my cheeks. Lawrence was having an affair. The date on the label was exactly 1 year ago. This meant the affair had been going on for nearly 2 years. Was this DVD definitive proof? But this alone wasn't proof that the child was Lawrence's. In situations like this, I'd need a lawyer or a detective to investigate. However, Lawrence only gives me enough money for living expenses, so I don't have much to spare. As I was lost in thought, the doorbell rang. Looking out the window, I saw a man in his late 20s. "Hello, may I ask who you are?" "My name is August. Is Lawrence home?" He looked troubled. "No, my husband isn't home yet." "I see. You're his wife, aren't you? Sorry to bother you, but may I have a moment of your time?" I was curious about this troubled-looking man. Opening the front door, he politely handed me his business card. He introduced himself as August. The name sounded familiar. "Actually, I came to talk to your husband about a colleague of his, a woman named Rosamond." The name Rosamond caught my attention. It was the same as the pregnant woman from earlier. Is this Rosamond by any chance the woman who gave birth about a year ago? Upon hearing my question, August showed a look of surprise. "Why do you ask? Did your husband mention something about acknowledging a child?" "Acknowledging? What do you mean?" As I pressed for more answers in surprise, August covered his mouth with both hands, shocked. "I'm sorry," he said, clearly regretting his slip of the tongue. I calmed him down. "It's okay. I have an idea about what's going on, so please, won't you tell me everything?" I invited him inside to talk more comfortably. I served him coffee, but August didn't touch it, his expression grave. Then he murmured, "Rosamond is my ex-girlfriend." "What? So you broke up because she had an affair with my husband?" "No, it's not that, but—" I was confused by August's response. Normally, if a girlfriend cheats with her boss, the boyfriend would be angry and break up, or confront the man she cheated with. But August didn't seem to fit that pattern. But isn't the child in Rosamond's womb Lawrence's? How could that not be the reason for your breakup? It's not like that! The child is actually mine! August's sudden loud declaration startled me. More importantly, what did he mean the child wasn't Lawrence's? You mentioned Lawrence acknowledged the child, right? Does he know it's not his? I don't know about that, but Rosamond insists it's Lawrence's child. Do you have proof it's your child? Yes, I do, August asserted confidently. He had seen the baby, Clyde, and claimed the boy looked exactly like his own baby photos. That's why he tried to reconcile with Rosamond. However, Rosamond refused, not wanting a family with financially unstable August. No, it wasn't just that. Rosamond insisted that Clyde was not August's child, but definitely Lawrence's. That meant she had been involved with both men for a while. She got Lawrence to acknowledge the child, and he was even covering both child support and Rosamond's living expenses. Whenever I asked Lawrence about his salary, he would snap back, "Why do you need to know?" I see. He didn't want his salary known for that reason. I was filled with a sense of frustration and helplessness. August couldn't give up on the child and hired a detective. It turned out Clyde was indeed his son. Mrs. Keaton, even if the child isn't your husband's, he was still having an affair, and we can't overlook him giving money to Rosamond. Of course not. We decided to collaborate and resolve this matter. Now it's December. In the Keaton family, it's traditional to gather at the family home on Christmas night. I made a proposal to my in-laws. Lucas, can we host this year's Christmas gathering at our house? Why? You know our family is quite large, Lucas asked. It's a lot of work preparing the meal and all. To get their cooperation, I knew I had to tell them the truth. I first shared with my in-laws the story I heard from August to prevent them from being too shocked. Then I decided to show them the DVD. Lucas, with his eyes wide open, watched and was at a loss for words. What is this? Diana was also greatly shocked to see Lawrence attending the birth of an unknown woman. I explained to my in-laws the plan I had devised with August and asked for their cooperation. All right. Not sure how it'll go, but let's help, Lucas agreed. Yes, we need to confront Lawrence about this, Diana added. Their support was reassuring. All that was left was to wait for Christmas. And now, a month later, on Christmas night, the Keaton family relatives gathered at our house. We set up a long table in the living room and arranged the food. The relatives looked puzzled. Why are we gathering here? Before we started eating, Lucas stood up to address everyone. Thank you for coming to the Keaton family's traditional gathering. It's a bit cramped, but there's something we need everyone to see. So we're here at the young couple's house. We don't have the equipment to play a DVD at our place. After Lucas spoke, I also stood up. Before we eat, please watch this video. I turned on the TV and prepared to play the DVD. What is it? Some fun video to show us? Lawrence asked with a smile, looking at me, unaware of the fate that awaited him. As I pressed the play button, Lawrence's face froze in that instant. The screen showed Rosamond's face as she lay in the labor room. Is this? Hey, stop it, Maria! The relatives around us started murmuring in confusion. What is this? Who is this pregnant woman? Everyone's gaze turned to Lawrence, realizing the trouble he frantically searched for the remote control. But anticipating this, I had hidden it. When Lawrence realized there was no remote and approached the video player, Lucas stopped him. Stop it! Let it play! Desperately trying to stop the video, Lawrence struggled, but he was held back by Lucas and me. Lawrence, give it up. Just watch quietly. Told off by his own parents, Lawrence fell silent, tears welling up in his eyes. Meanwhile, the birth video continued to play. This means Lawrence has a secret child. Oh, to think someone in our Keaton family has a mistress. If people find out, we won't be able to show our faces around the neighborhood. Amidst the commotion, with some relatives crying, I tried to calm everyone down. Please, everyone calm down. The baby born is not Lawrence's child. What? But Lawrence was clearly present at the birth. and the woman in labor kept calling out his name. Everyone looked at me with puzzled expressions, and among them, Lawrence seemed the most shocked.
Maria, how did you know that?
Oh, so you knew after all that the child isn't yours, I confronted him, and Lawrence clammed up, looking uncomfortable. If you knew it wasn't your child, why acknowledge it? And why have you been paying child support every month?
Well, that's because...
Lawrence, sweating, struggled to find the words.
Acknowledgement? Child support? And yet you say the child isn't Lawrence's. Explain yourself.
That's right. We can't accept this as it is. Everyone was demanding answers from Lawrence, but Lawrence couldn't bring himself to tell the truth. Unable to hold back any longer, Diana fell to her knees in front of everyone, crying.
I'm so sorry, everyone. It's my fault for not raising him properly.
As Diana sobbed, I patted her back to comfort her. No, Diana, this isn't your fault. I'm about to call someone who can testify to that.
You're right. Sorry for losing my composure.
With tears still in her eyes, Diana looked up. Sensing something was amiss, Lawrence confronted me.
What's going on here? What are you planning? Be quiet, Lawrence. This whole mess is your fault in the first place.
That's right. Even if the child isn't yours, the fact remains you had an affair. The room fell silent at my in-laws' words. It was about time for me to make the call. I took out my mobile phone and called someone. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang. It was August who had been waiting nearby. Behind him was Rosamond, holding Clyde. As I let them into the living room, the relatives began to murmur.
Isn't that the pregnant woman from before?
Yes, it is, and this man, August, is the real father of the child. I introduced August to everyone. August had brought Rosamond, as planned. Our arrangement was this. August would go to Rosamond, tell her the family had found out about Lawrence's secret child, and lie that Lawrence was no longer able to pay child support and was passing custody to August. Rosamond, likely believing the ruse, must have panicked, so August played along.
It's hard for me to suddenly become a father, too.
He then invited her to the Keaton family home to discuss child support. Normally, a mistress wouldn't visit the family home, but Rosamond seemed desperate for money. She must have thought Lawrence would help her out. Knowing how Rosamond would likely react, August followed our plan. As expected, Rosamond exclaimed upon seeing Lawrence. What do you mean you're not paying child support anymore? And even transferring custody to this poor man? How cruel!
What? I haven't said anything like that. Ha ha ha! You were tricked, Rosamond.
What do you mean? Was it a lie?
Yes, and the story about Lawrence not paying child support and transferring custody to me was a lie. I had to say it to get you here.
That's terrible! You deceived me. But the fact that his wife found out is true. So you needed to be here to atone for your affair and deceitfully taking child support. Rosamond's face turned increasingly pale at my words. It's not a lie. Clyde is definitely Lawrence's child.
That's right. Clyde is my son, and I will make him the heir of this family.
Lawrence defended Rosamond. However, the relatives wouldn't stay silent.
What? You intended to make someone who isn't your biological child the heir?
Lucas yelled, and the others joined in with their complaints. Amid this, Lawrence boldly declared,
Maria can't have children. I'll divorce this useless wife and remarry Rosamond, who bore me a child, to continue the family name, even if it's not my biological child.
The room fell silent. Then Diana clung to Lawrence. How can you abandon Maria, who has served you dutifully as our daughter-in-law? That's too much, Lawrence.
It's necessary. Dad always wanted someone to continue the family name. No, I won't accept this. Don't you realize how much Maria wanted children? I knew she consulted you about it, and you treated her like just a housekeeper.
Lucas. Touched by Lucas defending me, I felt tears welling up.
Why would Dad know all this? Maria, did you tell him? Fool, we live nearby. Your voice carries to everyone. Just so you know, we won't accept someone to continue the family name under these circumstances.
August, overhearing, confronted Lawrence.
You keep talking about continuing the family name, but there's proof that Clyde isn't your child. Proof? I had a detective look into it. Remember when you were at the bar having a good time talking to the woman sitting next to you? You were sweating a lot then, and she wiped your face with her handkerchief. Actually, that woman was a detective. When I visited Rosamond's place, I secretly borrowed Clyde's pacifier and had a paternity test done with it. What? Now you understand. You and Clyde are not related. By the way, I am his biological father. And you knew Clyde was AB blood type when you attended the birth. What's his blood type, Mrs. Keaton?
O type, so they can't be parent and child.
You hid that fact and claimed to be A type when acknowledging the child. Since Rosamond is B type, I'm A type.
With these revelations, Lawrence's voice broke down with emotion.
I had tests done. They showed a very low chance of me fathering a child.
I was shocked at this unexpected truth. Why didn't you tell me sooner? We could have sought treatment.
I was embarrassed, worried about what the neighbors would think, so I acknowledged Clyde.
That's no longer possible. Quietly transfer custody to August, Clyde's real father. No, stop this! Rosamond suddenly cried out, having been silent until then. I wanted to bear Lawrence's child and join the Keaton family, but not with this poor man.
What? Who are you calling poor?
That's right. August isn't poor at all. August and I said this, looking mockingly at Rosamond. What are you talking about? August works for a low salary at a small factory. Are you just pretending? Rosamond's loud voice made Clyde, whom she was holding, start crying. August quickly went over, took Clyde in his arms, and comforted him.
Poor thing. Don't cry because of your mother. There, good boy.
As August comforted Clyde, the boy stopped crying and smiled. Clyde knows who his dad is, even though they haven't lived together. And Rosamond, August isn't just pretending. I took over holding Clyde so August could explain.
I work at a subcontractor for my parents' company.
What do you mean?
Ever heard of Arrington Corporation?
At that, Rosamond's mouth fell open. The biggest local corporation, you mean?
That's right. My dad runs it. I'm learning the ropes at the subcontractor to eventually take over the family business.
Rosamond was shocked at this revelation. Then she suddenly smiled, pleased. Great! So Clyde's dad is going to be the president. Then I'll be the president's wife. Just as Rosamond said something so opportunistic, she forcefully snatched Clyde back from me. Holding him tightly, she declared, Clyde, we'll live together with your dad.
No, I'll take custody of Clyde, but I won't be with you. I'll raise him with my parents at home.
That seemed only natural to me, but Rosamond desperately resisted, turning pale. Why? There's a mother right here. Why this decision?
Of course. You lied and chased after men with money. How can I trust you?
Then I won't lie anymore. Please let me stay with Clyde. He needs me. Rosamond appealed to August with pleading eyes, but his resolve didn't waver. Clyde even looked away from her. Rosamond no longer had the right to be a mother.
Rosamond, you should be the first to apologize. Having an affair with a superior, and now you're here in front of his wife and relatives?
Rosamond was flustered in front of everyone. I seized the moment to say, regardless of who the child is, since you had an affair with Lawrence, you'll have to pay compensation in the divorce settlement. What? No way!
Stubborn woman, you need to take responsibility.
The relatives echoed with disapproval. And of course I'll also seek compensation from Lawrence for the divorce. Understood? I glared at Lawrence, speaking firmly. Then my in-laws also addressed Lawrence.
Not just that. Bringing such disgrace to the Keaton family, we can't apologize enough to the public. So Lawrence, you must leave our home.
That's right. A disgrace to the Keaton family.
Exactly. Leave right now.
Faced with these demands from everyone, Lawrence shrank away. Lawrence, looking desperately at me, said,
Maria, I was wrong. I'll pay the compensation due from the divorce. Please help me.
I was speechless at this pitiful sight, but Lawrence, undeterred, continued.
If I'm thrown out, you'll struggle too, right? So ask Dad not to kick me out. If you ask, he'll listen.
No, that won't be necessary. I'm also leaving you and this place, I said firmly, feeling relieved. But Lawrence seemed unable to comprehend this situation, his expression dazed.
What are you talking about? How will you live as a housewife alone? You can't manage by yourself. No, that's fine.
August, interrupting, surprised Lawrence further.
Didn't you know, sir? Until just before her marriage, your wife was the executive secretary at our company. My dad still laments losing her. She was the best secretary we ever had. So after the divorce, she'll work for us again.
Indeed, I was the executive secretary at Arrington Corporation before my marriage. Lawrence, who never showed interest in my job, wouldn't have known. August and I hadn't met while I was there, so we didn't recognize each other initially. That's why, when I first met August, his name sounded familiar.
That's why, Lawrence. Please, let's get divorced. Though it's a pity to let go of such a good daughter-in-law like Maria, I'm familiar with the president of Arrington Corporation. We'll still keep in touch.
Yes, I too want to remain close with Maria. Lucas, Diana, thank you. I always want to continue our relationship. Tears in my eyes, I clasped hands with my in-laws. August took Clyde and left for home. Rosamond stayed behind for divorce compensation negotiations. The same for Lawrence. We couldn't just leave him without discussing compensation of asset division, which lasted until morning. We split the assets accumulated since our marriage, and I received additional compensation from Lawrence. Lawrence was then disowned by the Keaton family. Lawrence had never lived outside his family's property before. He even struggled with the arrangements for moving out. Moreover, the president of the company where Lawrence worked had connections with Lucas. As a result, the rumor that Lawrence had an affair with his subordinate Rosamond spread quickly. Naturally, his colleagues' treatment of him worsened. Rosamond resigned early and returned to her parents' house. However, her father, also acquainted with Lucas, was furious about her affair with her superior and recognition of a child by another man, and quickly kicked her out. Rosamond, having spent her divorce compensation, is now working at a bar. I heard this from Lucas, with whom I still keep in touch, and was again surprised by the extent of his network. Lawrence, troubled by his deteriorating relationships, eventually resigned. Where he went to seek work is unknown. Now I've been re-employed at Arrington Corporation, working as an executive secretary. August still works at the subcontractor's factory. He prefers to stay there for now. It allows him to rush to Clyde, who's not yet in kindergarten, if needed. Indeed, he's a great dad. While I once longed for children, my fulfilling job now makes me think marriage isn't necessary. However, about a year later, with Clyde enrolled in a childcare center, August moved to the parent company. Initially, he started as a trainee. One day, incredibly, August proposed to me. It was so unexpected that I was truly surprised. Really? There's over a 12-year age gap between us. Are you sure about this? When I asked this, August answered with a smile. I decided this ever since you divorced. Clyde is fond of you, and most importantly, Dad says, it has to be Maria. I know I'm just a greenhorn, but will you marry me? Although I hesitated, I was drawn to August's earnestness. And so we got married. Now it's August, Clyde, and the new life growing inside me. A child with August. Together, we plan to build a happy family.